Okay. Alright, hi everybody. This is Ruckus IIV and friends. This is the first time we're going to actually have a live caller, and at the same time, we have an OG guest here who's not really even a guest. She's more like the OG podcast person that we started doing test podcasts with. And I would like to introduce everybody. First, I'm Ruckus IIV. This is Gazzy B.
Yo.
This is Poetic Princess.
Hello.
This is Jessica.
Hey.
And this is Remy.
Hey, what's up?
And on the line, we have Kyle, who is the host of a podcast called King Falls AM. And he's pretty much on like everything, and he's like totally professional compared to what we got going on. So, hi, Kyle.
Hey, I don't know about the professional thing. But
No. So, just to kind of get started really quick, I want to learn a little bit more about you and your podcast and what started you on podcasting altogether. Is that cool? We can start with that.
Sure, yeah. So, I'm a writer. My writing partner is not here with me today. We've been working together almost 10 years, and podcasting just kind of fell in our laps. Like we'd done. Obviously, we'd written scripts before, but we've done features, we've done pilots, and we just wanted to film something because you guys have touched on it before. But like Hollywood doesn't really, they're not awarding creativity right now, so you got to kind of do things yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of struck out and did something ourselves. We did a Kickstarter and we did a web series called In Development, and it was great. And we got into some festivals, and it was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we kind of podcasting just kind of fell into our laps, and we found a way that we could continually tell a long form story on the cheap.
Okay. And what was it originally that you were trying to get into before the podcasting part? Like when you said you were trying to like break into, say, the industry, was there anything in particular?
Just writing.
Just writing. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I started writing features, I want to say maybe 2002, 2003. Eric and I met in 2008, 2009. And it had been features, and then we were like, okay, well, the money for features isn't there because they just want to remake and reimagine, whatever. So we started going into more the TV realms. So we have a couple of TV pilots, and then it's really just being able to tell your story. You know what I mean? So
yes.
Everybody has a story to tell, and it's just finding the proper medium to tell it. And sometimes the proper medium is based on money.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I can understand that. Well, in my case, I'm actually trying to figure out how to tell my story gradually through the vlog on YouTube and stuff. So finding that niche.
I love it.
Yeah. So, like, was it hard to find your niche when you figured out how you were going to tell a story for your podcast?
No. I mean, it's really you're going to fit to the method that you're able to tell your story in. So, like you're doing your vlogs, there's some things you can do, some things you can't do.
Yeah.
There's limits to that, and you're going to. That's the best part about storytelling and wanting to do things like this is you find creative ways to get around your problems because your problem isn't going to move. You've got to move with it.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So anybody else have any questions for Kyle? Like, any curiosities, anything that they want to know?
Oh, I got it. Yeah, I think this is Gazzy B. Hey, Kyle.
Hey, Gazzy, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. So I think touching what you mentioned about the lack of creativity in Hollywood, do you find it now with large social media and a lot of technology that we have, a lot of platforms, it makes it easier in some sense. Although the money backing isn't there, you find it easier now to be able to put out your own what's the word I'm looking for? Content without having to worry about or not having to rely on someone else. You have the platforms now with YouTube and Instagram. Now even Instagram TV, you can even
absolutely
post stuff in there. So it makes it a lot easier for a lot of folks now to be able to have their own platform to put out their own content now. So is that something that you found? Would you say when you started back in, you mentioned 2008 when you met with Eric with your writing partner, at what point did you find, or was it more difficult then than it is now, or was it? What do you find about the same as far as being able to put out your own stuff?
Like, do you find it easier?
Yeah, do you find it easier to do it
now than it was then?
Definitely. I mean, now, just look at what you guys have got. You guys are on YouTube. You guys are on SoundCloud. 10 years ago, that wasn't an option.
Right.
10 years ago, YouTube was around, but nobody was really utilizing it like that. I mean, the smart ones were, and they're still around today. But now it's basically they've taken out the middleman, which is good, because social media has made it to where content creators can be with their audience. Like, there's no like marketing, there's no PR people. You are literally just, if you want to make something, you can make it.
Right.
And if it's good enough, people will come to it. And you're right there with your audience, which is a beautiful thing. It cannot be a beautiful thing at times, but it is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And there is no middleman. There's nobody saying like, hey, you have to watch this, or this Friday this is opening. Like, the crowd is doing it for you. Social media and your listeners or your audience, the people watching what you're putting out there, are doing it for you. They're speaking for the marketing departments that you don't have.
Yeah.
So it is I don't know that we're going to look back at it and say it's a golden era for that sort of thing, but it is a beautiful thing to where you look at you guys want to come on here and you want to tell your story, and you have an outlet to do so. And that's happening all around the world now. And that couldn't have happened 10 years ago.
Now, out of curiosity, based on that, do you think it's a little more difficult, though, because now everybody can do it?
Right, that was going to be my follow-up question, too.
The oversaturation question, basically.
Right, because now the floodgates have opened, everybody's doing it. So now you have more, not so much competition, but you have more options to choose from. You know, where you can,
absolutely.
Now you've got more heads on the field. So the question is how you're going to be able to. Now you have to really work harder, I think, sometimes to stand out 100%. Of that crowd, because now you have more bodies to shift. Noise. Right. You know
what I mean? There's a lot of static out there, and in the case of the show that Eric and I do, which is a scripted audio drama, there weren't as many scripted audio dramas when we started a little over 3 years ago than there are now.
Okay.
So people are always coming to it. We came to it late. There were shows that had been going on for, a couple years, doing basically what Eric and I deemed as like old-fashioned radio plays. They had been doing it for years before we came into the mix. So now that there is, Apple is not adopting, but they're conforming to the fact that there's an audience for these things. So now that they're showing the mainstream, and I say mainstream very, 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 very lightly, that they're showing people that there's an audience here, that there's content, and then there's an audience for that content, that people are kind of flooding to it. And I mean, it's got to be like that for you guys as well. It's hard to do a talking heads show up against celebrity talking heads.
Oh,
for sure.
It's an uphill battle. So you have to find what you're good at, and you have to keep pushing towards it.
Right. You just keep making the content, and then just eventually more and more people will get to attach to it, and then they just grow from there.
That's the hope. That's the hope. You're always hoping that you connect with the audience, and like you're never going to cut through the white noise just by wanting to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's where I struggle with my vlog, because I'm trying to figure out, okay, like I do events, or I'll go to events, share those events with people, show them those things, and people are like, man, that's great, because now I felt like I actually went there and I checked it out with you, and I don't normally get to see those things. Now I want to go check it out, and then when I hear that, I'm like, yeah, I did my job, but then at the same time, I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, which they say, don't look at the numbers, just keep doing what you got to do, But I see that sometimes, and it's kind of discouraging, because it's like I feel like I'm not getting it out there. Or the next question I have is my content not that good? Is there something I need to tweak or add or fix, or you know what I mean? So I don't know if that's the case, though. I do think, and you guys brought this up perfectly, the fact that there's just so much out there, and we all start from the same spot. We all start from zero.
Yeah.
It's all an uphill climb for all of us. And a lot of people, maybe they have connections, maybe they luck into finding a listener or an audience member that sees what they have, and they have a little bit of influence in the social media world. And they're able to say, hey, watch this. It's cool. Hey, listen to this. It's cool. And that will give you a little bump, but the content still has to be there. But going back to what you said about the numbers, when you're first starting out, can be good, because you're like, oh my gosh, 100 people listen to this, and I don't know 100 people. There's 100 people on my Facebook, but I know they're not listening or they're not watching. So it is encouraging to get that, but there's a certain point where if you plateau, or even if it's not what you hope it to be, where it can start counteracting that productivity. So just be careful. I was a big numbers guy. Like I had a spreadsheet for all of our listens.
Oh,
every
wow.
day. Oh yeah, for I would say probably the first year and a half of our show, I could tell you what our listenership was the day before, the week before, the month before. And that's cool when it's growing. And we were on a constant growth spurt for, I want to say, our first 2 years, maybe a little over. And then when it plateaued, it's like, well, what are we doing wrong? And you forget that you do have an audience there. The audience matters. So it's not what you're doing wrong. You're just not, new people aren't finding you. And then you're like, well, do I take out an ad on Facebook? Do I, what can I change to make that different? And that's where it's taking away from you. Your creativity is best used telling your story. You're not the marketing guy. You're not the PR guy. So like, I think, like you're saying, don't look at the numbers. Just keep doing you. Keep telling your story, and you're going to be happy with that.
Yeah,
it might not be the millions of people you want to hit, but you're going to be happy with that.
Yeah. And I've always tried to remind myself, it's not about, popularity. It's not about, trying to be famous or any of that stuff. I just, the idea is to be able to produce content and get it out there to people and entertain them. That's the main
100%.
That's the goal,
I actually have a question for you, Kyle. This is
Sorry,
Remy
Street.
speaking, by the way.
Hey, Remy, how you doing?
Hey, how are you? So this genre, I honestly, I heard about this a little while ago about your podcast, and they let me listen to it, and I was like, wow, this is actually something I'm very interested in, because I write a lot of sci-fi and fantasy and supernatural aspects of things. So it really caught my attention. And so I was just wondering, I've always been into that. And has that been something that you and Eric both were into in the very beginning? Was it something that you kind of developed an interest for later on? Is there another genre that you're interested in? Something else that you're going to explore?
I mean, to take that, I want to tell stories in all realms of possibility. Eric and I, there seems to be, and it's so funny, after doing the show for about a year, we looked back at some of our older stuff, and there's always a little bit of I don't want to say a supernatural tint to things, but there's always a little bit of weirdness that's not reality going on, which is fun, and it wasn't noticeable until we really sat back and looked at what we had as King Falls was going on. But like, I want to tell, I personally am a rom-com guy. That is my jam.
Really?
What is rom-com?
Romantic comedies.
Romantic comedies. Okay.
Yeah.
Really? I would have never.
I'm over here thinking
And that's really fun too, because you don't hear a lot of men kind of admit to that.
That's why I was like that.
I have no problem. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know that's like common.
Yeah. So when I hear that, I'm like, hey, yes, that's awesome.
I have not a problem sharing my. Yeah. What is that? Oh, that's how you tie your shoe. Got it.
Well, it take me by surprise, because after listening to Link,
swoop and pull, man, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm a rom-com guy, and Eric and I, we met on an independent film. We're both from Florida, not far from where you guys are at now. And we met on, I had written a romantic comedy that I was trying to film independently.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. And we met there, and like when we started talking, I was like, yeah, I've got this rom-com, I've got that rom-com. He's like, have you written anything that's not romantic comedy? And I'm like, we can explore that. But I mean, even looking at what we're doing here and with King Falls AM, it definitely has those elements in there, because that's just the stories I like to tell. I'm a big fan of what those, when they're done right, whether it be a movie, whether it be a TV show, whether it be a podcast, when it's done right and you have that romantic.
Give me an example. I want to know what you consider to be a right thing. What's one of your favorite movies that's a rom-com?
My all-time favorite movie is The Apartment from 1960, Billy Wilder. It's Jack Lemmon, Shirley MacLaine.
Nice.
While you wouldn't consider it a rom-com compared to like Kate Hudson, Matthew McConaughey standards, it certainly is a romantic comedy.
I'm a big fan of the oldies.
Fantastic film. Another one would be When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yes, thank you.
That's a classic.
yeah.
Absolutely. When Harry Met Sally, to me, there's not a lot of perfect films. And to me, When Harry Met Sally is a perfect film. Everything's hitting on all cylinders. So when you're able to tell those kind of stories from start to finish, boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl again, that sort of thing, with the twists in the middle and the end,
and it's
I think it can be a perfect thing.
I like the realism in it. It's not their relationship is nowhere near perfect. And even when they end up together, it's still not going to be anywhere near perfect.
And that's the best story.
That's the best story.
I mean, you want to tell those stories because nothing is perfect. When it's perfect and when it's shiny and when it's beautiful and unflawed, it's not real.
It's boring.
Right. And people will stop losing a connection to it.
Right.
So you want to keep things real, I guess, as they say in the streets.
Is that what they say?
That's what I've heard. I don't really get to the streets very often.
Okay, Kyle, I want you to go out into the middle of the street, and I want you to
figure this out.
Tell a stranger that
there is a heat wave in Southern California right now. I'm not going out into my porch, much less the street.
I've noticed that you've been posting a lot about that on Instagram. I see the 100-degree stories and the no's. Like, no this, no that. Which I found pretty hilarious.
117 degrees when I went for lunch yesterday.
Gosh.
Oh.
Dude, okay.
I am not built for this. I'm from Florida. And hot is hot, but like I am not built for this.
Well, and that's a dry heat too. So
right, that's what I
can't stand the dry heat in California. I can't.
I prefer...
Actually,
I prefer dry heat over.
I'll fight for that dry heat.
Yeah,
I spent some time in Arizona, and I preferred it. It was
like I was telling Tanisha, I feel like compared to Florida, like 110 degrees in California is like 90 degrees here in Florida because of the humidity that we feel.
Yes,
it feels 10 times worse. Like
100%.
117 is still hot. Don't get me wrong, but it's
but no, when you go here at 117 degrees, you can go to the shade and it's 90, and it feels much better. If it's 98 in Florida and you go to the shade, you're still sweating, you're still nasty, you're still angry.
Right.
It's not good.
Well, what I found interesting too was you had like these posts like about 100 degrees. I see the thermometer and I see a big giant no in the lit thing. But then on top of that, like when I posted like, "Hey, do you love the rain?" You put absolutely not on the slider.
So this is me being an old man here. So that was the first time I'd ever seen the little dial on the Instagram. So I took the dial all the way over and it said yes. I'm like, oh, well, of course. I love the rain. I miss the rain. And then I let it go back thinking that I would be able to do it again. And then it's like, thank you for your vote that.
Okay. So I totally misread that then. Okay, so you love the rain.
I love the rain. I miss the rain. Very much so.
He misses it. There's no rain in California ever.
There's 5 days of rain, and their rain is not rain.
Right.
It's a drizzle.
Yeah. Well, when I went to California to do my vlog for Comic-Con,
I watched that, by the way.
Did you really? What did you think of that?
Dude, I like what you're doing. I like the stories that you're trying to tell. You know what I mean?
Cool.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate when you can always tell when someone's genuine and somebody loves what they're doing. And I feel like you're genuine. You love what you're doing.
Dude, thank you for that. I appreciate that a lot. I really do. Because that's, genuine, like being genuine is something that I think is very much needed in production.
100%.
And it's nice to be able to, like you said, be in the timeline now in our lives to be able to at least break into it and try to, get it out there at least. So,
yeah.
It's nice that when I'm doing it, that it's actually coming across genuine too. Because it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy to be genuine. Getting out in public, talking to people, and trying to because other people feel nervous when you put a camera on them. So to get them to feel comfortable, it's like you start a conversation, get to know them a little bit, and then sometimes you shock them with it, and then they just jump out. But they realize, I think, when I talk to them, that I'm not trying to get something out of them.
It's not a gotcha journalism type of thing. You're trying to have a conversation. You're trying to see what people like, what people dislike, what they're there for.
Exactly.
And now is the time to do that. I think there's a lot of things that aren't genuine in the media, and I'm not talking about like the movies that are shoved down our throat and the TV shows that are must-see TV. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the media that we choose to consume, like the podcasts we listen to. There's just it's hard to find something that's truly genuine and with actual love behind it. So like when you can put something like that into the world, hopefully it catches fire and people love it and it helps spread that. But even if you're not, you're still putting something good out.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I had a question, Kyle. What was
Did I answer Remy's question? Did she get the
Yes,
answer?
yes, you did. Yes.
I just wanted to be sure. 'Cause
Oh,
I'm a
good
rambler,
follow-up. Yeah.
so.
Yes, a little bit of a tangent there, but yeah, I mean, the tangent happened afterwards, so I'm all about tangents. I thoroughly appreciate that, and I do love the rain too. Nice.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're good.
Yes, we're good.
Actually, my question is actually a follow-up to Remy's question. So in a sense, what was there a particular movie or a TV show or a specific writer that said that you saw or that you came across and said, you know what, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to start writing. Like, what was that moment, or who was that person, or that?
That's it. That's a great question. So movie-wise, I don't think I really understood as a kid that people did this for a living.
Mm-hmm.
That as a kid, I was just like, oh, this is what we're doing. I want to see that. I don't want to see this. And going to the theater and seeing the original Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
That to me is another one of those perfect movies.
Yes.
And like up on the big screen, you're watching it and you're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then you realize that so many people had their hands in making this come to life. And then you start looking at who those people were. So Steven Spielberg, somebody you've heard of, but like, who is he? What does he do? What else has he done? And then you go back through that catalog and you're like, oh, I like that. I like that. I like that. But like, it really awoke in the sense in me of like, this is something that people do. You're not just chosen to be a storyteller. You have to kind of fight for that right to be a storyteller. And that was like seeing that on the big screen, that woke me up to the fact that, oh, this is a job that people have. And then realistically, like my main source of inspiration is Kevin Smith. His story is, he started from nothing, shot his first movie Clerks independently with $27,000 of his own money.
Love Clerks.
And it's a fantastic movie, especially for what it is.
Yes.
Because there's so many independent movies, mine included, that you put your own money into, you put your own heart, put your own love into it, and then nothing happens. So it's like it's one of those things where yes, the story has to be good, yes, the writing has to be good, but like there's so many other elements that make it to where you're going to be able to consume it. It's going to come to you, because it's not like today, like we're talking about 1992, 1994, 1993.
Right.
So like those options of like, I'm just going to self-publish this on YouTube and see what happens was not there. Right. So the fact that like he was able to go from just a clerk who wanted to write and tell stories to telling his own story to basically becoming a media darling for a little bit of time. And telling the stories he wanted to tell, and then what he's doing now, where he turned to podcasts, where he turned to doing very low budget independent films again. He's somebody who really inspired me, because I looked at him in 2002. I wanted to write as a kid. I wanted two things as a kid. I wanted to be a writer, or I wanted to be a musician.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I started playing guitar when I was like maybe 11. I was in orchestra, so I was playing like viola. And then I moved to bass. So music was always a big part of my life, but I was like, these are the two things I want to be in. And there was a certain part of me when I became a teenager where it's like, these are not concrete things.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to be really great at these things to be able to have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and you really got to want to do it too. Like, it's one of those things, like, you could probably get, like, did you feel like you could have gotten better at it as you went along, but you just like you didn't have the drive maybe?
Music, this is the thing. The drive far outweighs the talent, and I'll say that in both music and storytelling. My drive is second to none, and I feel like that's the important component. The talent can be there.
Okay.
Everyone can learn a talent. It's the drive that gets them somewhere.
Yep.
One of my best friends has a phenomenal voice, and we used to play in bands together when I was in Florida, and it's the drive. I love this guy to death, beautiful voice, but is he going to put the work in? Right. And that's the question. Are you willing to put the work in?
Right.
Because even these overnight successes are 10 years in the making.
Right.
So talent-wise, I think you can take what you've got. I think you can learn. I think you can build and add to it and bring other sources in to make yourself better. Drive is the important thing that I think a lot of people are lacking.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. And that's there's a lot of that being taught now. Have you ever heard of somebody named Gary V by any chance?
I have not.
Okay, Gary V.
Enlighten me.
Gary V is a he's actually he's got a big story, but right now he's all over the internet, constantly just pounding information into people about how social media really works and how right now is the time to really jump on social media. And to, if you're going to want to be a podcaster or a vlogger, he really pushes podcasts because he thinks right now we're on the age of a transition to where video is not going to be as common and audio is going to be the thing, because everybody can listen to it in their car and they can get whatever they need out of it without having to watch something. So it's going to be a lot more common to have, say, like voice command with, like, you know, you have Siri and all this other stuff now. He thinks that's going to be
complete sense.
Yeah, and he's saying that, like, everything that businesses operate off of will be functioning off of audio. So, like, right now is the time to jump on that, plus social media. You know, like right now, you know, the time of buying ads on YouTube, you know, and trying to get return on it. You know, the amount of people that see a $10 ad is insane compared to how much it costs to put a billboard up, things like that. And he's like, right now it's cheap, but you give it another year and a half, and all these other companies are going to jump on this thing. And when they do, the price is going to go up so high, you're going to wish you had already advertised yourself. Because it's going to be too late.
He's 100% correct. So he's looking at the future and he's telling everybody to adapt and adopt now.
Right. And with that being said, like, he's pushing people to flat out understand that you want to be something, you want to, you know, make music, you want to do whatever, it's going to be at least, like you said, 10 years. You know, don't think it's going to happen overnight or a year or whatever, but you got to put in the work. It's all work, you know, nonstop, constantly getting yourself involved with, you know, your social media, constantly going to events, getting yourself known, putting in the work, putting in the, you know, the projects. He's like, you know, those moments that you don't want to do a project, you do it, you know, and that sets you
right.
apart from somebody else, which I know that's not easy, but yeah.
It's very true. And it sounds like he's on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not for everybody though. He's like, you know, a lot of people complain because he curses a lot, which doesn't bother me, but he's pretty straightforward about it. And he ran a successful business a long time ago for his father, is what got him started, but it wasn't his business. So when he sold it, he had no dime. Like, it was nothing for him. He had to start from scratch and build millions again. So, you know, like, he's got a really big story.
It sounds very interesting, and I love cursing. So you've enlightened me, and I'm gonna check it out when we're done.
Okay, yeah. It's hard not to keep consuming his content. He's a genuine dude. He's constantly out looking to help people, which I love, and he keeps it real as far as what it's like to try to succeed. And he tells you like it is. He says if you suck at something, you hire somebody to do that part. You know, he's like, you know your shortcomings now, so you don't struggle constantly trying to build a skill that you're just not going to build, you know?
Well, and that's the important part, too. You want to accentuate your strengths and diminish your weaknesses. There are things that I feel that I'm very good at. There are things that I feel like I'm very bad at. And I'm not going to be putting out the things that I'm very bad at.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but does it feel like a hit to the ego sometimes?
Oh, constantly. Constantly. Like, to be out in the public realm, when you put something out into the world, which you guys are doing, whether things go good, whether things go bad, or whether things go indifferent, it's a constant play on the ego. It's a constant play on your mind.
Yes.
Like you said before, if your numbers aren't there, am I doing something wrong?
Yeah.
Am I doing something not good enough? Or even if you think you're doing great work and somebody's like, I hate it, and you're like, is he right?
Yeah.
You know? I struggle with that a lot personally. We're very lucky to have a large listening audience,
mm-hmm.
and I live by the fact of don't water the weed. So like when I see something negative, I just try to stay away from it. I always anybody who tweets at us, anybody who takes the time to out of their days. I know how busy days are. And they're willing to take the time out of their day to listen to something you make, to interact with something that you do. That means something. There's a personal connection there. So I want to make sure they get that connection back. So even if you just send a tweet of like, there's a character on our show, our main character doesn't like raccoons. And I know it's weird, right? But we'll get tweets to his account, because it should be an in-world Twitter account, but it kind of straddles the line there. And people will tweet him a picture or a GIF of raccoons, and I always try to respond as the character would to them, so that they get like a little, oh man, I just, and it's not trying to like, I don't want to manufacture I don't want to manufacture a false happiness, but I do want to give them what they're looking for. You know, they took time out of their day to be like, I'm gonna have fun with this, and I want them to have fun back, and because it's not work for me. You know, it's something that takes time out of my day that I have to do, but like, I want that. I want people to want to interact and want to have fun with what we're doing.
That's actually something. I'm going to stop you right there. You don't have to do it. It's a choice. It's a choice, and I think that's kind of what adds the element of surprise and happiness on their part, is that you didn't have to do anything. You could have just taken what they said and moved on. You wanted to do it. It's a character that you enjoy, a character that they enjoy. It's a passion of yours, and you took something that they said. They took time out of their busy day to do something, and you responded to them. That means something.
And it doesn't happen all the time.
It doesn't happen all the time. There are so many people who don't do that. So it's not something you had to do. It's something that you wanted to do, and I think that makes it a little bit better.
Well, thank you for saying that, by the way. Eric and I we love what we do. You know, is it hard? 100%. Is there times where you look at the screen, because it's a scripted audio drama, you look at the screen and the cursor's blinking and you're like, why did I do this to myself? This thing is due in a month and a half. You know, and a month and a half might be far out, but like when you're just stuck, when things aren't coming the way you want them to come, you're just like, should I have been an accountant? You know, there's times where you just don't want to push forward. There's times where my job takes up a lot of my time personally, because we're not doing this as our full-time jobs. And then King Falls AM for Eric and myself, when we're on hiatus right now, but when we're not on hiatus, it takes up about 40 to 45 hours worth of our time outside of work.
Wow.
So because we're just in a constant motion, because there's just two of us. We have a large cast, which we're very thankful to have, but they're not producing, they're not writing, they're not, you know, they do social media, which is a godsend.
Ooh, that makes a big difference.
So
for sure.
Oh man, I wish I had somebody doing my social media right now.
Well, they're very interactive on their social medias as well, and that helps because it's not always just tweeted to me or tweeted to our show account. It's tweeted to them. So the fact that they love what they're doing and they love interacting, it helps build that too. But like, there's times where you don't want to push forward. There's times where, you know, personally, you haven't seen your kids or your wife, and you're just like, this deadline is not stopping.
That's gotta be tough.
I have to deliver.
Yeah.
But like, I can stop what I'm doing if I'm in a rut, and I can jump over to Twitter and I can see that there's never. I mean, during our release days, it's too much to keep up with, and that's a blessing. But like, when we're on hiatus and doing nothing, we're still getting, you know, 20, 30, 40 tweets a day, and that's something that's special. So like, when you're in a rut, you can jump over and see that this means something to somebody other than yourself.
Yeah.
Outside of yourself, this is important to someone.
Yeah.
And that every time I've jumped over on that sort of situation, I've literally it's been a wake up call. It's like, this matters. Stop being a little bitch about this and push forward.
Yeah.
Because it does matter. But even if that wasn't there, if you're just telling your story, it matters.
Yeah.
So you got to find the reasons to push forward.
Well, and okay, so Jessica, you have a question, right?
I was just curious that you're saying that this takes like 40 some hours out of your day. Now, is this something you do as a hobby, or do you have like an actual job and this is something you do on the side, or is this like a permanent job thing?
Oh no, Eric is in the special effects world, so he works on the big budget movies that I'm complaining about. He works and I work in it's kind of a PR fulfillment outside of that world. Like, I get to circle around it, and it sounds really cool, but it is what it is.
It's a lot of work.
Our jobs take up, let's say, 50 to 60 hours a week when things are hitting, and things are hitting genuinely a lot. So it's a constant struggle to make sure you get that next draft in, to make sure you listen. I read the draft that Eric sends back to me. I listen to the editing, because he does all the editing. I listen to the edits and make notes to send back, so there's constant circles always happening. So it is a hobby. we're very lucky enough to, like, when we brought merch on into the world, our fans jumped on it, and we're lucky that
That's
started
cool.
a little bit of money to where we could start paying. I say paying the bills, but like paying the actors for their time. You know, in
Yeah.
Los Angeles, it's a world of crushed dreams here. You're constantly like navigating through the broken dreams of yourself and your peers. And for some to be able to give somebody $20 for their time, or to be able to take them to lunch or to dinner because they've donated their time to you and what you're trying to build, that means something. They just got paid for their services.
I gotta ask
And
you.
like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I gotta ask you a question. You hit something that I met another vlogger in California. Did you see that vlog by any chance?
I probably did.
Did you? Okay, that vlogger, he interviewed me, and I was curious I couldn't even interview him too much because he wanted to know a lot about the way I did stuff. And one of the conversations we got into was like how the differences between the people in Florida and the people in California were like. And he wanted to know what I saw. And what you said, a place of broken dreams. And that's what it almost looks like that in a lot of places that I went to. Like, is that a thing? Like, is that a legitimate thing? Because maybe I thought I was just over analyzing everything. But I mean, I see people on the street not being like, they just look miserable, like they didn't make it somehow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
Is that a stigma, or is it just me just overthinking it?
I mean, I'm a very pessimistic person, so
Okay.
I lean towards the negative.
Okay.
But with that said, you know, Los Angeles is a shining beacon of hope for a lot of people who want to be in the entertainment world.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people, let's just say from an acting standpoint, if you're the prettiest guy in Omaha, Nebraska, and all your life you've been hearing, man, you could be in commercials, you could be on a TV show, man, you're a good looking dude. And then you just like, you know what? I am a good-looking dude. I'm from California,
Right.
So you pack your knapsack.
You sell everything.
Catch the Greyhound.
Sorry about that.
You sell everything. You haul your cookies all the way to Los Angeles, and you realize
Yeah, you get there and you're totally average.
you are average.
You're broke.
You are what everybody else is.
And you're broke.
That eats people up.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of that, and as a writer, there's that too, because no matter how good you think you are, and I don't think I'm good, you have to have humility in what you're doing.
Oh
But
no,
matter
I
how-
think you're good.
Yeah, you
I'm
are.
going to tell you right now. I've heard. I haven't had a chance to hear a lot of the show yet because I want to kind of like get through it. But from what I've heard so far, because I've listened while Poetic Princess was listening and Jessica, and the writing to me is good. You guys got everything paced out really well too. So
Well, thank you for that.
And I'm not just saying that. Like, legitimately, like, everything's so well thought out, too. And there's a lot of, like, it's... What I've noticed is some of the characters almost have their own inside jokes that you can pick up on.
Oh,
That's not
completely.
easy to write that, in my opinion.
It takes time. If that's part of the time, you know what I mean? It's literally like plotting things out, seeing where these people are going, and letting them live their lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with that said, like going back to it, as a writer, I have a certain humility for what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, etc. And like you come here, and it's like when I'm in Florida, and I told people I was making an independent film. I was laid off from my job. My job was moving. This was in 2008, so like the Bush, whatever. I don't want to make it political. Sorry.
That's fine.
It went south for a certain reason.
Yeah.
And a lot of people started losing their jobs, and I was one of them. And I was lucky enough to be high enough to where I could stay on and close out the company and get a severance package.
Okay.
And I talked to my wife, and I'm like, you know, this is the time where I can have my Kevin Smith moment, where I can take this money and I can take this script that I've been writing earnestly. I was just writing the script that was speaking to me about a hometown guy who went to California and came back when he failed, and came back to hometown, and his hometown was like, wow, you did it. You were in a Valtrex commercial. You know, he did it, and they saw him as wow, you went and did something. You followed your dreams. You didn't just stay here. And he saw himself as an ultimate failure.
Yeah.
So I was actually writing that story when I found out I was going to be losing my job in a few months. And I decided to finish that story, to look at it and say, is this something that I can realistically film in Central Florida?
Yeah.
Can I use the money that, you know, cash out my 401k, use my severance package, use my savings? Is this something that I can try to put together on my own to tell my story.
Yeah.
And if it fail, whether it doesn't, whether it succeeds, whether it fails, am I going to be happy just in the fact that I tried? And more importantly, am I going to be showing my daughter, because my daughter was small at the time, that you follow your dreams no matter what.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, you know what? It could be a strain. It could be hard. But I believe in you. Let's do it.
Well, see, that's okay.
Good woman.
Yes, you have a supporting wife for that, dude. That's like really, really hard for a lot of people in relationships to have somebody who can support you on your dream. Because
it's a weird dream at that. Because again, Central Florida, you don't tell people. You know, I don't know how open you guys are with the fact that you guys have a podcast. But like, or your blog. But like, you tell people at work, like, yeah, I'm writing the script, and they're like, why? What does that mean? What are you doing? Like,
oh yeah,
they look at you like you want to be an astronaut, like you're about to sprout wings and fly to the moon.
Yeah,
it's not something you do.
Right. I've told many a person I want to be a voice producer, and they look at me like, "What is?
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, you know what it
mean?"
Right.
You know what it is too, though, is when you, like in my case, like if I mention a vlog or whatever, you either get those people who are excited about it, or you get the people who are like, oh, okay, another person who thinks that they're going to make it somewhere. Good luck. You know? So
right. They don't just see the need that you need that. You have a story that you tell, that you're itching to get out, and that maybe something you've learned or something you've observed can comment back on society or comment back on a certain feeling in people. And that's hard. That's hard. I grew up with that. Once I realized at like 18, 19, I was already playing music. I put the writing on hold, and I realized that I wanted to be a creative. But I also realized I need to go work to pay the bills to make that happen. Yeah. So like you're constantly burning yourself out on both ends, because when you're not working, you're trying to write, or you're trying to get gigs to play music somewhere, and it's hard. It's hard. Nobody you don't look at Tom Cruise and say, man, it's hard. You see like multi-million-dollar houses and movie premieres and all the cars and you want, and then he can have anything he wants. What's that world like where you can just go anywhere and have anything you want? Yeah. And people see that. They don't see the struggle to become Tom Cruise. Right. And like that's hard. That's a hard thing to deal with, and it's extremely hard. Because we're all of similar age. If you're trying to do something creative, you don't know how to do it, but you're still trying to do it. You don't have encouragement because that's not where you're from. Yep. That's not built into that. It's a very hard thing to navigate. And like,
you're starting from scratch.
You're starting from scratch, and also you don't know how to do it. Yep. You know what you want to do, so you have an end result maybe, but you don't know all the steps to get there. There's no blueprint telling you how to be Tom Cruise.
Right, and you don't have somebody to show you all the failures to kind of skip over them. You have to go through all of them yourself.
Correct. And to me, like, it's extremely hard. And I think if there's anything to circle around to something I wasn't even talking about, there's just something. It goes back to the genuineness and the happiness and all that stuff. I'm very open with our listeners personally. I talk to everybody. We talk about the struggles people are going through. We talk about the good times. We talk about the bad times. And I think you need that. I'm not.
It makes you human.
I'm not. Yes, but even more so, it makes people see if they're also trying to do something like this, that they can do it too. Yeah. We're not burning up the world here with our show. We have a very sizable audience, and that kind of blows my mind. Yeah. But it's not anything like, you could take the worst rated cable channel there is and say, oh, their numbers aren't even that. Of course it's not that, because it's a podcast, and you have to tell your grandmother and your mom and your uncle what a podcast is.
Exactly.
Yep.
So we're not there yet. And like you're saying, maybe Gary Vee is trying to get people there. He's trying to push people to the fact that, hey, this is where it's going, and be there for it. Yep. And I appreciate people like that. But like, in my mind, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing without a Kevin Smith. He showed me that a husky gentleman from New Jersey could go from working this daytime job to making his dreams come true. And I was a husky gentleman in Florida, and I was going to do my job, work on my dreams, and try to make my dreams come true. And while I haven't made all of them come true, I have a lot of big things to check off on my bucket list. I'm doing so much better than realistically I could have ever hoped for, because Eric and I have really tuned into something that people want to hear. We're doing work that connects with people. And that's a dream right there. That's a check on the bucket list right there. The fact that people connect with the story that you're telling, and it just so happens there's a lot of people, again, not burning up the world with it.
Yeah.
But to bring it back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, there's a lot of people that follow me, and I want to be able to give that back.
I've noticed just on your Twitter, I was like, my goodness, like, you got a good following for sure, man. And I'm sure. How long did it take you to get to that point, to where you're at now? How long did it take?
Oh, for a very long time. For a long time,
few
Eric
years.
and I didn't put our name on the show. We wanted the show to speak for itself, so we were just like, here's the show. For the longest time, we weren't trying to be personalities outside the show. We wanted the work to speak for itself, and it did. And then it came to a point where Eric and I had the conversation, like, King Falls, as much as we love it, isn't going to run for 10 years. So when the time for King Falls to be over...
So you have a cutoff.
Well, me personally, Eric and I, we definitely do. We're nowhere near that cutoff. So if anybody's listening that's King Falls fans...
I was going to say, like, I don't know if you want to give them that idea, because, I mean, the way it sounds to me, though, is if it's going really well, you guys will just keep writing. That's just what it sounds like.
Well, that's not entirely true.
No.
It is going very well, but I believe that stories can overstay their welcome.
Yeah.
So
gotcha. Okay, that's a good point.
When we started our story, when we had to figure out, when Eric and I sat down and said, what is a podcast? when we had to figure out what we were doing in the medium we were doing it in, the story, we had to know the beginning, the middle, and the end. So it's always been there from the start. Now, is that to say we can't pump out 20 extra episodes because people are loving it? Of course we can. But there is an end. And I'll go ahead and say that end is not in sight yet. So if you're listening as a King Falls fan right now, don't be scared. But,
you guys are good.
But that end is there. You know what I mean? That end has always been there, and we're genuinely working towards that end, as sad as it is. So Eric and I had to look at it and say, the show's doing very well. More so than we could have ever dreamed of. You hope for it, but you don't actually think it'll happen.
No, that's great, and I want to say, like, a massive congratulations to you for that, because that's not easy to do.
Well, thank you, guys.
Really quick, Tanisha wants to ask a question, but after she asks the question, if you have any questions for the group, I would like you to, if you're interested in having any questions, by all means, just shoot them out.
I do. I came with a topic prepared.
Perfect.
I do my homework.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Why don't we close it on your question?
Okay.
And then on the next one, we'll start with your questions, and then after that, we'll do a topic on the next one. How about that? We'll do that.
Okay.
So whatever you guys want to do.
Awesome. All right. We'll go ahead and do that. So go ahead.
So one thing is, there's not a lot of people in our circle that listen to podcasts. So, like, if you can explain, like, what your podcast is, and explain a little bit about your podcast so that other people can hear what it is.
Oh, sure.
Because we've
we
been talking about it, but
like,
for people who don't know what King Falls AM is, can you explain it to them?
And shame on them.
Thank you for that, Casio. Sure. So King Falls AM is a twice a month audio drama on the 1st and 15th, where we explore. It follows a late night radio show, and it's two hosts in the paranormal town and world they live in and come to explore through the call-ins and the characters that they run into. So it's basically just your crazy late night AM show that you could tune into at 1 o'clock in the car, but they just happen to be in a paranormal town.
Which you have, I do believe, said that you won't state where exactly King Falls is. Like, you guys know where it's at, but you don't want the general audience to?
Well, no, it's not even about that. It's I know where it is in my heart. I know when I'm writing for it, I can see it picture perfect, super clear. But when we first started writing it, and when we first started releasing them, and we had a very small listenership, you'd see people like, this is in the Ozarks, or this is the Appalachians, or this is wherever. And you'd be like, wow, I didn't see that, because that's not where I see it. But if you see it there, fantastic. I want you to see it there. I want it to be like Springfield. I want it. We don't know where it is. We just enjoy being there.
I picture it in Colorado, Montana area.
Oh, I
the
dig
mountain
that. That's
town.
cool.
The little lake with Kingsey and
yeah.
Thank you for knowing that. I like that.
Well, she listened to the whole thing.
Oh yeah, in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, she
I binge
burns through
listened.
stuff so fast.
There's like 30 hours of content there. I'm always, it's crazy to me when we get like a tweet or something and it's like,
Wow.
I listened to King Falls AM from start to finish in 4 days. I'm like, really?
Well, when I get in the car, to and from work, at least is a 30 to, depending on traffic, 45-minute drive.
Oh, and you just
And
knock
in
them
the
right out. See,
beginning, it
that's
was
what
just
I like.
Yeah,
you know.
that's the first thing I do when I get in the car is plug in my phone and listen
Me
to
too.
podcasts. So
It's so funny because I wanted to work in radio as an adult. I was like, oh, that is
Oh, like Gazzy B.
and I did work at a radio station in Tampa for maybe 3 or 4 months, very lightly, and it was something that I did enjoy doing. But I was like, I wasn't able to continue doing it. But now I have a show that's basically living that out as well. But it's so funny because I don't ever listen to the radio. In fact, when the radio is on in my car, I'm like, can we turn it off? And just turn
Yes.
the podcast
I'm the
to
same way now.
Yeah, podcast changed my life too, unfortunately.
I
For
listen.
sure,
I
for
listen
radio.
to books on tape. That's my thing. So
That's
Yeah.
kind of that's
it's
kind of
kind
like
of
what
like
this
a
is.
podcast. It's
Yeah.
almost exactly like that, except it's a one-man show.
Yeah.
You're doing all the voices and everything. So now
Right.
it's like, well, maybe I should start listening to more podcasts. I
You
don't listen
should.
to enough podcasts.
should
I've been
listen to
listening to
this
one-man
podcast.
shows.
Me personally, I'm a big interview guy, so I listen to interview podcasts. That's
Okay.
my thing. But like, doing a podcast has opened my world up to the joy of podcasting.
Actually, the
and
first
there's something out there for everybody.
Yeah.
The first time I heard, I think the closest thing I ever came to a podcast, and I guess you might consider it to be a podcast, when I watch my movies and my TV series. I like to watch the series, and then it's like, okay, so what happened behind the scenes? And you know how they have those little
The featurettes and stuff.
yeah, where you can rewatch it, but some of the cast members are talking straight through it. And
Oh, the
I would,
commentaries,
yeah, I would just sit there and listen to the commentaries, and I loved it because
I would drive my wife crazy.
Oh, I
Commentary.
drive my husband crazy. He can't stand it. He's like, "What are you watching? Didn't we just watch this?" I'm like, "Yeah, but see, I'm watching it with so and so and so and so. They're talking through it." He's like, "Who?" I'm like, "The characters." And he's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
but now they're
God."
telling me about it.
Now they're telling me what they were thinking and how many takes it took and who fell down this flight of stairs at this time and broke their hip. I like that stuff. I like to know
Me too.
what's going on. So that was and I started doing that when I was 13, I think.
So you've been listening to podcasts and didn't even know it.
I didn't
really.
even know it. I didn't even know it. All I
You're
knew
listening
was
to an audio commentary.
right. All I knew
You're
was I wanted to be an actress so that I could do these commentaries. I wanted to have that after. I've always been into. I hate cameras, by the way. Just so you guys know, I hate cameras.
Well, yeah, they steal your soul.
I hate that's why I always wanted to do like stage theater, and I always did stage theater. But when it came to movies, I was like, okay, well, I want to do the movies not because I want to be on camera, but because I want to be behind the scenes and just enjoy all that camaraderie and still perform, and then be able to sit back later and watch myself and be like, wow, what was the expression on my face? What was I thinking that had nothing to do with the movie? I love that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I guess I have been listening to it for a very long time.
There's
That's
something
awesome.
for everybody. You're gonna find if you go digging, you're gonna find something that you like. Maybe it's King Falls AM. Cheap plug.
Hey, by all means,
I
plug
will,
away.
I will start listening to all of them from the beginning.
Oh, I think you'll love it.
I didn't watch
Yeah,
it.
you're
from
gonna
the
love
beginning.
You're
it.
gonna love it.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay, so
It's a
I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and wrap it up from here, and then we'll start another one, to where he's gonna ask questions and we'll find out, I guess, about our show and us a little bit more, and then we'll go into topics after that.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so I'm just going to wrap this up for now. This is Ruckus IIV and Friends. I'm Ruckus IIV. This is Gazzy B, Poetic Princess, Jessica, and Remy. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks. I know y'all missed me.
Yeah, and of course, Kyle from King Falls AM, the host of King Falls AM. If you guys want to check them out, Kyle, can you go ahead and let them know how to find you?
For sure, we're on all your favorite podcast providers. If you want to tweet at us, we're at King Falls AM. I myself, I'm at Make Believe Kyle, and my writing partner and hetero life mate Eric is at Make Believe Eric.
Hetero life.
Hetero life me. I like that.
Okay, and they can find you at SoundCloud. I also noticed that you have a YouTube set up for your podcast as well. I noticed that.
You know, I think there's one there.
I found it.
It doesn't get a lot of love. I know we had one for our web series in development, and that's at Make Believe Picture Company, which is the name of Eric and in my company. But yeah, we're out there. If you look for us, you're gonna find us. That's a fact.
Yeah, you could just Google it. It'll probably pop up all over the place.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, for sure. I spend a lot of time Googling it and then worrying about my life choices.
Okay, cool. So, and also, if you guys want to follow us, it's Ruckus IIV and Friends on Instagram, Facebook. If you guys have any questions and if you have any topic ideas or anything like that, you can comment in the comment section below here on YouTube. If you're listening to us on SoundCloud or anything else, by all means, just drop us a comment and let us know what you think. And I guess we'll just kind of go from there.
All right. Peace out. We're going to
Yep, that's the ending we were looking for.